So I will officially call the meeting to order now. It's 1:06 p.m. on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. We do have a quorum. Onaunatone, Chair of the Council. I'm going to go next to Rachel.
Rachel Sprague, calling from the island of Lanai.
Thanks, Rachel. Robin.
Robin Kay, calling from the island of Lanai as well.
Thank you, Robin. Go ahead, Mary.
All right, Mary Bashir, Hawaii Island.
Thanks, Mary. Michelle.
Michelle Lefebvre, Hawaii Island.
Thanks, Michelle. Go ahead, Tessie.
Tessie Kinnaman, Hawaii.
Thanks, Tessie. Don.
Don Hager, Maui.
Okay, thanks, Don. I'll kick it over to ERP.
Let's see, Tom Eisen here in the headquarters of the State Office Tower in Honolulu.
Mary Alice Evans, Interim Director of the Office of Planning here in the State Office Tower on the 6th floor.
Thanks, Mary Alice. Okay, and Allison.
Allison Cato, Deputy Attorney General.
Okay, thanks, Allison. Okay, so we are actually losing Mary Alice at 1:30. So if folks are okay, I want to go ahead and take item 2, OP Interim Director's update first, and then skip to item 8 so that we can have some discussion, hopefully with Mary Alice, on how can we support support OPSD in our role as the EAC. So I'll hand it over to you, Mary Alice.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I apologize if my voice sounds a little froggy. I've been fighting a cold. Second of all, I apologize that I do need to leave. I have a meeting with Senator Lorraine Inouye at 1:30 at the Capitol, so that I'll have to actually leave a little bit earlier than that in order to walk over there. For the director's update, which is your agenda item 2, we continue to follow legislation that's making its way through the ledge. We don't see some of the problems that have been quoted in the media on exempting affordable housing projects in the state urban district in areas zoned for affordable housing, because that's already in our rules. But we do have a concern that the language of that bill says any other law to the contrary notwithstanding, which we believe means that the such a exemption would not have to be noticed in the environmental notice. So we'd like to see those exemptions included in the notice so that the public knows that a project has legitimately received an exemption. So that's a change that Tom and I've been discussing, and we proposed to the legislature. It hasn't been incorporated yet, but we still have some time to go. And so our position has been supporting the intent of the measure and recommending that amendment to the bill. Tom, anything you'd like to add to that?
The hiring process is continuing for the
Yes.
The staff here.
We have 2 vacant positions to fill, one of which we have already made an offer and it's been accepted. So that's the Planner 3. The Environmental Health Specialist 3 is being recruited at the 2 level. We have a list. We have qualified applicants, and we are scheduling the interviews and hope to arrive at the top-ranked applicant and make an offer as soon as possible. So I think that's good news, and that will bring the staffing component up to the intended level, which I think will be helpful for the council as well, because two of those staff positions will help support the council's work.
Awesome. Thank you. Robin, I saw that you had your hand up.
Yeah, Mary Alice, thank you for that information. There were a number of bills that we've been tracking that reflect the exemptions and housing. Which particular bill are you focusing on? Is it
358.
2358? HB
Yeah,
20?
2358.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we're on the same path.
Yeah,
Which is the same as the SB 2002,
yeah.
which didn't survive, but this HB 2358 apparently is a
Mhm.
vehicle moving forward.
So
Right.
we'll keep recommending that that the exemption be placed within the rules, the statute and the rules for under 343 and under the rules 11.200.1.
Yeah, and I think we submitted on behalf of the council some comments on that bill. We didn't support or oppose, but submitted comments. But within our comments, we did concur with OPSD's recommendation to add that language. Yep.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else have questions? Oh, sorry. Were there any other updates from you, Mary Alice or Tom?
No, thank you.
Any other questions for Mary Alice? Okay. Well, yeah, I'll rush through it really quick so we can get a few minutes of discussion with you. If we can, folks, turn to agenda item number 8. So this is a continued discussion and we have it under the Strategic Planning Committee update. At our last meeting, if you folks recall, we had, or 2 meetings ago, there was a thought to propose a PIG to work with OPSD in terms of forming a process for responding to questions the OPSD director or OPSD may have to the council in areas that we can assist them with, and trying to figure out that process. At our meeting in February, the discussion ended up where we voted against creating a PIG because it seemed like folks wanted to, just continue these discussions as a full council. So we have this continued agenda item here to, again, talk about this process and really how can the EAC fulfill its role while supporting OPSD at the same time. So I will pass it on to Robin, unless Mary Alice, you want to start with any particular questions, and then I will hand it over to Robin to share his thoughts.
Well, Chair, I'd like to thank the council for putting this on the agenda because I see a strong benefit to the Office of Planning from hearing from the council on issues where exemptions from 343 in emergency proclamations come up, and figuring out how to ensure both initial mitigations are included in exempt actions, and also once the emergency proclamation expires, which they will, how those say new affordable housing projects or replacement housing projects in the case of Maui wildfires, how will they be able to continue with non-conforming uses sometimes that the housing is needed, but how do we move forward with those exempted projects that didn't have the initial 343 review and disclosure and the potential mitigations that would address any substantial adverse environmental impacts involved. So thank you. Over to you, Robin.
Thank you, Mary Alice and Anna. Am I unmuted? Yeah. We thought of a couple of ways to address this. One would be if there was sufficient time for this process, that you would simply put it on our agenda. And then at the next meeting, we could talk about that since it had been agendized. We could have a free-flowing conversation and actually I think at that meeting, as long as it was on the agenda, we could actually vote to make the recommendations to you as a council. But in the case of that there not being sufficient time for that full process to work out, we thought within the realm of acceptable sunshine activities, Mary Alice, you could contact either Onauna or me or a particular other council member if it was an area of their expertise, and get at least some initial feedback on what you needed. And that would be, so there'd be two ways dependent, and your path would be dependent on the amount of time, the time constraints under which you operated.
Yeah, since I'm not a board member, I'm not a council member, any one of you can talk to me freely. You're not soliciting a vote or communicating a vote because I don't vote. And so that would be, you're right, Robin, that should be a way to, have communication between one and possibly two board members, as long as no votes were solicited or offered.
That's what we were thinking. If you would contact, if it was legislation, Mary or I might be your contact. If it was a real estate issue, you might contact Onauna. If it was, something about birds, then I'd call Rachel. I mean, we just want to make sure that you have access to our collective intelligence as much as that might be of value to you. Within the confines, within the restrictions of sunshine, we didn't want to say everything had to be on the next agenda. There was trying to figure out a way for a quicker response, even though it wasn't a vote.
Yeah, and maybe, after those conversations, because again, each of us were appointed to the council for our experience in certain areas, right? And so, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think the members would be certainly open to you reaching out to us individually if you have specific questions that we can help you with. And, through that discussion, if you folks determine that it is something that you'd want full council, concurrence on, or a discussion at council, I mean, you can report, to me, and I can agendize that for the next meeting. And then we can discuss, hey, this is what we talked about. Does anybody else have additional ideas? But at least in terms of the process, if you have a very, a question burning in your mind and you got a committee meeting coming up in 2 days and you need to talk to somebody, I mean, we're certainly here as resources for you and for OPSD.
Thank you. Those two pathways forward, I think, are very helpful. By the way, Dawn, I was really impressed with your presentation on Kahana Sunset last meeting, and I know that that's going to be useful information for our coastal zone management program. As I think all of you know, we are embarked on a study of looking at managed retreat legal frameworks. This is not going to end up in a proposal to do a voluntary buyout of any particular site, but it's going to give us an idea of what legal frameworks may exist when it's necessary to do something, and what knowing as we have from our community meetings, at least on this island, Don, people don't want to move until, the water is lapping at their foundations and they need a rowboat to get into their garage. So we need that framework in advance. So when there's an urgent need, it's already there. We don't have to take a year or 18 months to have that legal framework for the state. So your discussions and planning with the Kahana Sunset folks is going to be, I think, very helpful in looking at that. I have to work with, through our coastal zone management planning program manager to maybe alert our vendor that, of your work. Would you be okay if I do that?
Yeah, sure. And, thank you for saying that. I was actually thinking that the governor was just displeased with EAC because I probably said that climate change is really on the legislature and on the governor's office. So I hope that wasn't, he's displeased for that reason. But,
By the
that
way,
I'm glad.
I
I'm
haven't
also,
heard, I haven't heard what Mary is saying she's hearing, and not at all. So I'll try to reach out and see if I can find out more. But that rumor hasn't reached me, Mary.
maybe it's Coconut Wireless, but, the
No
thing is,
comment.
the thing is that, I'm a little scared when you say that's the legal framework for the state. Because, it seems to me like we're in the issue now with fire, with, sea level rise. I mean, infrastructure, we're there. And so I hope that, just from a perseverance sake, that the governor does, add more people to the board, because I think these are really important issues. But other than that, thank you for that. And yes, please give it to SSFM. I think we already sent them a link yesterday
Great,
to your-
great.
on your website.
Oh, excellent. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, so I appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah, Dawn and
thank-
oh, sorry. Do you?
No, go back to you, Chair.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask Dawn if she if that's the same link she shared the other week, and if not, can we share it with everybody
Yeah.
to watch your presentation? Yeah, I think that'd be really great.
Oh, I forgot it was taped.
Yeah, yeah. I think you sent me the agenda and I didn't get a chance to watch it
Oh.
live. So if you have the link for the taped
Yeah.
version, I mean, if you don't mind sharing.
Yes. I think Tom or MaxAg staff might have it. No, I
Okay.
think Phil Fernandez was grilling me about
Okay.
climate
And
change.
thank you so much, Mary Alice. I'm gonna add this to the agenda for next month again, so we can
Great.
do discussion if
Thank you.
needed. Good luck. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. Thank you folks for letting me move the agenda around a little bit. I wanted to catch Mary Alice so we could, and I think her GM is being heard tomorrow, which I just got word. So if folks are interested, I think it is GM 603 to appoint her as director of OPSD. Okay, any questions on, oh, sorry, actually, let me step back. Mary Alice did have to leave, but were there any other thoughts or questions on agenda item number 8 in terms of the proposed process that was laid out for us? Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, because we only meet once a month, sometimes some of these pressing issues need answers, sooner rather than later. So I hope everybody's kind of okay with us telling you that you be available to Mary Alice. I mean, of course, you don't have to if you don't want to, but I assume everybody's okay with that because that's why, you've been so gracious in donating your time to be on this committee. Okay, any thoughts on that? No? Okay, well, we can go back to taking the agenda in order. Next up, we'll go back to agenda item number 3, which is review and adoption of the February 2024 meeting minutes. Does anybody need a little bit of time to go over the meeting minutes, or has everybody already reviewed, excuse me? Okay. No, if everybody's reviewed, do I have a motion? Okay, Robin, move to approve. Okay, we have a second. Michelle,
Second.
okay, thank you. All right, any discussion on the February 2024 meeting minutes? Okay. If there are none, all those in favor of approving the February 2024 meeting minutes, please keep your hands up or say aye. Okay, I have everybody except Mary. Are you abstaining on this one? Oh,
I'm sorry, I'm not paying attention.
okay, no problem. Are you voting yes or abstaining on the approval of the February 20?
I'm voting on yes.
Okay, all right. So we do have unanimous approval for everybody who is here. February 2024 meeting minutes are approved, and thank you again to ERP for keeping such good minutes and keeping us on time with that.
Oh, no, Mike is not available for this meeting. I just reached him.
Thank you for letting me know. Okay, All right. So I'll turn it over now to Michelle if you wanted to just give an update on the exemption committee.
That's very brief. We are almost completed our review of the DHHL exemption list. So that's the only list the committee is currently reviewing, and we are 80% through. So there's only 3 remaining committee members: Onauna, myself, and Mike. Mike wasn't able to attend today's meeting. Maka'ala attended as a member of the public and said she'll continue to attend and contribute that way. So Onano and I will complete the last 20%, and then we'll on our own, and then we'll invite DHHL to next month's meeting to attend so we can walk through our questions with them.
Thanks, Michelle. Does anybody have any questions on the exemption list update? Okay, exemption committee update. All right. Thought Ron was gonna attend, but well, we can always get to his after. Let me just, in case he's not.
I'll text him.
Yeah, see if he is, just to talk about his thing, because I had sent him the agenda item. But we'll go on to number 5, which is, last meeting was the presentation of the PIG report. Ron gave a really good presentation, and we have the meeting minutes as well if folks need to catch up on that. What happened, but basically at the end of that, what we had, there's still some work to be done with exemptions overall, in terms of, providing guidance to the agencies and what they can do. We also identified through the PIG report that there may be potential for further rulemaking on or potential legislation even, for next session, probably not this session, in terms of really teasing out how the exemption process works. Also making, maybe making clearer what administrative activities don't even belong in 343. So folks aren't really spending the time to make those types of exemptions. And just, further process moving forward. So I wanted to continue to put this on because I know last time, again, it was just a presentation, but there were some good ideas that were beginning to be raised by council members. So go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, I thought both the report that Ron put together and his recommendations today were excellent and well written, and I told him that. I had just 2 comments. Number 1, on his issues 1 and 2, the only question, I think it's a great idea, but where are we going to get the money for it? There's going to be travel involved, there's going to be per diem, there's going to be some expenses involved, as we know, and unless Mary Alice has extra money around, or there's some source, I don't know. So I think it's the right thing to do, but I just wonder how are we gonna be able to pay people to do that?
Yeah, and I think for this, we would try to utilize first and foremost council members who are on those specific islands, right? Since we luckily have folks from every county, hopefully we could, utilize it that way. I don't know if Tom wants to get in on it in terms of having an ERP staff person travel, and maybe that would be having Tom with his experience travel, and then meet the relevant county representatives from the council. That might be one way to do it. And then of course, I think if we put together a good plan for how we want to do this, we could present it to Mary Alice and see if there is any, money or funds in the budget, right, to help fly people over if that's need be. So I think it's doable.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
The other comment that I had was and we've talked about this before, and that was later on in his report when he talks about opening up to changing the rules, as you referenced, Onana. And every time we approach that gate, we all take a step back because of the implications of that. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be off. Onana, you're going to be off. We have no guarantee or even close to an additional number of people being appointed. So, mm-hmm. So I think there's some, and again, I'm not against it. I just am raising this as a question. We're going to have less people, no money, and we're going to be dealing with reopening the rules. And if we do it at all the way the way Scott did it the first time, we're going to be overwhelmed. And I don't know if there's an abbreviated way of doing rules changes for this, or would it have to be the same way it was done?
Yeah, so it doesn't need to be the same way that it was done under Chapter 91, right? I think you just have to go out to the public hearing once and then you make changes. The process that, Scott and ERP put together the last time, with the council's help was far more than is required by law. But it was good because we did kind of a complete overhaul of an entire chapter, right, of rules that hadn't been updated in 20 years. So I think we can, depending on what rules are going to be changed, amended, or added, do probably a truncated process, truncated compared to last time, but still compliant with what's required under Chapter 91, right? One of the other things I think we discussed at the last meeting was in terms of, okay, a definition of project or program. Maybe we do it, and what I actually think might be a good idea until we as a council have certainty that there will be a council with quorum moving forward into the next year, is to start maybe thinking of these definitions that might work. Perhaps we do it as guidance for now. And then really set up the next council to enter into rulemaking, because I don't necessarily think it's wise for us to begin the rulemaking process with so many people coming off in the next, several months, basically. But I think we can do everything that we can, given our experience with the last rulemaking process, to set up, the council going forward so that they have at least some guidance, right? So I think that might be the way. And of course, open to suggestions from others on what that process might look like. Go ahead, Michelle.
The big difference, of course, is that we don't have the same authority for rulemaking that we had the last time around. And so I guess, to me, it seems the process really would be tied a lot more with ERP, and would need to really be developed with them and led by them, I wouldn't think led by EAC, because we can't, is my understanding. So we're there to support and provide the guidance, but I mean, I think that's what this, what these suggestions are really to ERP and not for the council to take action or lead the action.
Right. That's a good point, Michelle. Thank you. Yeah, again, it wouldn't be the council leading the rulemaking this time. We can make recommendations to OPSD. And I think, of course, Mary Alice has been really willing to work with us since we transferred to OPSD, working with her. And again, how can we support OPSD in this? So we, number one, have to make sure they want to do it. I think we can certainly provide recommendations on what we suggest now that the rules have been operating for almost 5 years now. August, I think, makes 5 years. And yeah, what tweaks do we need to do, right? So I think realistically, that's what we can handle in the next several months with the remaining members that we have and the time that we have to just set up the future council and what they can do. I don't know, any other thoughts, questions on?
Could others add? I mean, do we have the ability, and thank you, Michelle, with ERP to limit the conversation about which rules are being changed, or could somebody else add to that? Somebody disgruntled with one of the rules that we worked on 5 years ago, could that get on the agenda for the discussion too? Or do we control, or with ERP, control what is being discussed?
Yeah, so typically for rulemaking, right, there have been instances where there are petitions for rulemaking for brand new rulemaking, redoing a whole chapter, or specific targeted rules. So I think the short answer is yes, we can control which provisions are focused on. In terms of we as the agency or we as a council can propose that. I guess maybe this would be a good question, and we might have to look into it. If we make a recommendation to OPSD proposes to open rulemaking for very specific rules. Now, if OPSD was to get a petition for rulemaking for other rules that are not included in that, there would need to be a response to that petition. And that could be from any member of the public, right? So there would need to be a response like, okay, yes, we will, or no, we won't. And that's set forth in chapter 91 and how you do that. But yeah, we do have some level of control, and we don't have to say we're redoing all of HER 11-200.1. We can say we're looking at 11-200.1 dash blank, just the one section if we wanted to.
I guess I was concerned not just with the public, but with individual legislators having some axe to grind.
Again, I think to require an official response, there would need to be a petition for rulemaking.
Okay.
Don, do you have your hand up, or is that from the previous? Okay. Any other questions or thoughts? Okay, so yeah, again, I know a lot of this it's tough to take action on right now, where at least personally, I do feel like the council is a little bit in limbo, based on what Mary said, which again, personally, I've been getting those feelings as well without saying them in that manner, but message taken, right? We see what's happening. But okay, we are in March. By June, a lot of our terms expire. That only gives us a couple more meetings. So I think for us going forward, the folks who are getting off, maybe we got to really start. And we started this a couple years ago trying to do strategic planning. I'm very appreciative to everybody who has been doing some recruiting. I have gotten a response from boards and commission recently, but it was just that they're looking into it. I'm trying to find out who, I reached out to actually one of the prior applicants actually reached out to me. So I'm trying to find out if they have gotten a response from boards and commission. I'm going to send our list of everybody's terms and when they expire to boards and commissions after this meeting, just to try to nudge them along further to talk about the immediacy. But I think for the next meeting, I want to add an agenda item of, the folks who are cycling off, what's our action items going forward, and what are we going to leave the council with? Because I would hate to leave the remaining members without any direction. If we are talking about potential, updated guidance, I think is one thing for exemptions that we can probably help with in the next couple of months before a lot of us term off. A proposed framework for working with OPSD, which we verbally talked about today. Maybe we can get that into writing. Sorry, my light sensor went off. Yeah, if we don't move, my light goes off. What else were we just talking about? Maybe a proposal for targeted rulemaking that we might need to do. So for example, as Ron suggested, the definition of project and program is one that we can at least set up so that, and I'm looking to, Michelle, Rachel, and Don, you guys are going to be carrying the torch. And then maybe at the next meeting for you guys, you can come back to us also with a list of what do you want from us before we go. And we have that as an agenda item because that puts us April, May, June, right? We got 3 more months really to pass the torch on. And hopefully we'll have some new members by then.
Is that a list of like per person, like that's terming off, or like per committee? Like how would you want that information?
That's a good, very good question. Thank you. I'm open to suggestions. It can be, per committee really makes sense in terms of, are we going to keep these committees moving forward? And yeah, I think if the chairs of the committees can kind of work on that, that would be helpful. Let me think of what else. And I'll also do my own list as chair overall, right? But I'll probably have suggestions for certain committees. I don't know. Any other thoughts on that? What do you folks think would work? What would be helpful to you?
I agree with you, Onana. When I look at some of the energy and work that we've put into this in the past almost 8 years, you believe that?
Crazy.
I'd like to have a I'd like to have more of a feeling of completion than I
Mhm.
currently do.
Mhm.
And so I like your organization there. Thank you for giving us a little, a parting direction.
It's such a shame that we began with the issue of not having quorum, and we may end with the issue of not having quorum.
Mhm.
And Scott worked really hard, and then everybody else on this group worked really hard to maintain that quorum and to do the rules, and now to be faced with an absence of enthusiasm from those whose enthusiasm we need is pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
But you should know, to some degree, we had help from Nicole Lowen and Mike Gabbard. We reached out to them, and they both put a little bit of fire to some of the folks who we think were holding this up.
Mhm.
Not 1,000% successful by far, but they did offer to reach out.
Mhm.
So just so you know that.
Yeah, that was very helpful, and thank you, Robin, for coordinating that. And I do think it was after that I got a response finally. So that was good. Okay, well, I'll work on a list of things, and if everybody else can kind of just go through their list, and I'll agendize that for the April meeting, that we can start getting those documents together. And I'll start putting together maybe like an electronic binder in terms of where we left off. For example, I don't know, maybe now's a good time. I mean, who wants to be the next chair? Start thinking about it. But passing on, for example, our practice and protocols document, that was one thing. For rules committee, we were supposed to formally repeal the prior procedural rules. I think we still have some steps to do that. So I guess for the list I'll be doing, right, is just what are the things that kind of got left off, or where did we leave off, right? Because we did start a bunch of things, maybe have not quite finished a bunch of things as new stuff started coming up, and what can we do just to kind of set you guys up going forward. Yeah, I think that's doable in the next couple months.
I think, I mean, I hate for us newbies to be all quiet. I mean, we certainly appreciate all that, you guys have done to bring it here. I think stepping on when we have and how much has changed in terms of, what the council does or can do, or what OPSD wants from us. I feel like we're waiting, right? We want to take everything and all the things you've brought as far as you have, and now we wait to see how we fit in. And I know we've been trying over the past year to figure out how we fit in. But maybe it means, seeing how events turn in the next few months. But we're here, we're ready. We're just really sure what
No,
what's happening still.
yeah.
So
It's tough, and I thank everybody. It's not like a sign-off speech, but I thank everybody for all the effort you folks put in your participation and willingness to serve, of course, right? Because we're giving a lot of good work to the state for $0.99. So but yeah, we'll do the best that we can, right? There are unfortunately some factors that we just don't have control over, like getting people appointed as much as we try. But okay, so anything else on agenda item number 5? We all have our marching orders. So if everybody can start working on their we'll just call them our transition lists, basically, for what needs to go over, and we'll work from there. We got a couple of months to work on that. Yeah. Anything else on agenda item number 5? So maybe what I'll do is I'll turn that into the transition list discussion topic for next time. That really falls into that in terms of what has been done, what needs to continue, what needs future work. Making some notes.
Just kind of in line with that Ron Terry submitted this excellent report. Ron did a presentation regarding zoning for the Chamber of Commerce, environmental, or their Economic Development Committee. that was incredibly well received. And it was recorded, so if anyone wants it, let me know. It was, he's gotten tremendous feedback from the community.
Yeah, Mary, if you don't mind sharing that in the link too, so folks can have it, I think that would
Okay.
be great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, and then Mary, I'll turn it over to you for, any update on planning of future forums.
We don't know what to do. So, I'm now getting civil defense is warning us about something. I'll make it be quiet. INO does not have a report to make at this time. Thank you for having us on the agenda.
No problem. Thank you.
But
Okay.
wait. But
Go
I
ahead.
will say that when I was at the MaxAg meeting, so OP really supports MaxAg. And I kind of feel like we need that help as well, because we don't have staff or finances or whatever. But MaxAg is gonna present what they do at HCPO in Hilo. And so I'm just wondering, is this something that we want to also try to do, is present like what EAC does? And I don't know, it's a lot of work. Maybe we won't even be like on the committees at all, but I don't know. It's just a thought because
Mhm.
who knows?
I mean, I think that would be good. And, I turn that question back to you, Dawn, just because a lot of us by the time HCPO rolls around in September aren't going to be on. So it's really up to the current EAC. I know that Scott, I think the year, was it 2019, had tried to get on the HCPO agenda, but there wasn't interest from me. I think there were too many topics.
Yeah.
So we got bumped, and part of it was during that year, right? Scott had already, and I joined him in a couple of them, done a ton of presentations on the new rules. So I think folks may have felt like, okay, yeah, we've already seen it, so let's make space for other stuff. But yeah, I mean, if that's something the council wants to pursue, certainly I don't see a problem with that. I'm just looking at you guys because we're not going to be here in September. So yeah, I would say go for it. That's a good conference, and I like it. Okay. Anything else for INO? All right. Thank you guys so much. Robin, I'll turn it back over to you for legislative committee.
Yeah, we didn't have the committee. We had some technical issues and some communication challenges. But a couple of things I want to call your attention to and have a discussion, and they're all part of what we agendized. So of those four particular bills, the only one that's moving is 2358. That's the second bullet on the agenda for the legislative committee. And that's the one that Mary Alice was talking about. And I think there's an opportunity not to be missed were we not to submit official comments. I'm not suggesting we oppose it or support it, but I think that since it's about environmental impact statements, and since we've communicated about this issue previously, and since we're becoming more and more invisible, there's an opportunity to put our face out there and have a statement about this particular piece of legislation. It is the only one. Its companion bill isn't moving. This seems to be the one that's going forward. I think it's something. I hope you all had a chance to read this, but that's one bill that I think we should consider submitting comments on. And then the second one is the one called HB 2406, and that's the green fee. And I raised that because last year, if you remember, there were 7 or 8 green fee bills submitted to the legislature, and they didn't come up with any agreement on them. In large part, we found out when Onana and I met with Rep. Lowen and Senator Gabbard, because there were too many questions and too many competing approaches to this. It appears as if this particular bill now has addressed those issues. And so we may or may not want to comment on this green fee. It clearly has purposes that match some of our Kuleana. It doesn't.
Can you say the name of the green fee bill again? Was it
Sure.
2406?
HB 2406.
Okay, thank you.
And it's an interesting bill in that they seem to have tried to avoid last year's mistake challenges. And it's very specific what the bill is for and where the money goes. So I think those are two of the pieces of legislation that we might want to consider having some comment, some discussion on today, and some comment offered to the legislature. It's early in the process for both of those bills.
So on HB 2358, that was the first one that you said we should continue to monitor, correct, Robin? Yeah.
Yes.
And that's the one that we did on behalf of the council, and I can circulate to you folks, or it should actually be posted. It'll probably be posted as late testimony, but we did submit comments in line with comments that we previously submitted on past attempts to these bills have been framed as codifying our HAR exemption for affordable housing, but it's not really, because they make some, pretty big changes to them, including allowing for affordable housing in non-urban designated lands, right? So we submitted, again, as I mentioned earlier, comments on HB 2358, not in support or in opposition, but just comments on the process that we went through for the affordable housing exemption through rulemaking. And also we did concur with OPSD's suggestion on making sure that, there's a correct distinction between an exclusion from 343 and an exemption. And if it is an exemption, it should be noticed in the environmental notice.
Forgive my faulty memory, but that was, you submitted that as chair, or it was submitted as the EAC's testimony, not you as an individual.
No, it was the EAC's testimony.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it was in line with stuff that we had previously said before.
Right. And I remember now because you gave it to me to read. So I'm catching up with you a little bit slow here.
Right.
So my question then is, are you comfortable that that's sufficient, or do we need to have anything else?
I think we can continue to monitor it. And then if it, I don't know if folks have had a chance to take a look at that bill, and if there are other topics that council members want to be included in, further testimony. So I'm assuming it's going to cross over, right? When is the crossover date?
I think it's Friday, Mary. Is that right?
Last Friday was decking.
Right.
So-
And I think crossover deadline is today's.
Might be Thursday.
This Friday, Thursday. Okay.
Yeah. So, I guess we can see,
I'm gonna double check.
Okay. If I recall correctly, it passed out largely unamended.
Yes.
So we've already submitted testimony on it. The benefit of potentially submitting additional testimony is just to get new testimony in, before the Senate right now, because it was before the House committees, and now to be before the Senate committees.
Well, then let me
Yeah.
go ahead. Oh, no, sorry.
No, that's all I was going to say. So if folks can take the time, go on the Capitol website, take a look at the testimonies that was submitted, and I can circulate what we submitted as well to our, to the email group, just so folks can see. And if you folks, disagree with any positions taken or think that we should add anything, you can go ahead and respond to me individually, and then we can, consider that, right?
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. Take a look at what the bill does, what the bill says, and what the testimony. There was a lot of testimony.
Yeah. There was a lot of testimony, and I think I'll give you folks just a brief summary of one of the questions. So in addition to the stuff I already mentioned, right, we did mention the long vetting process that we had on the exemption as it reads in our current rules. And one of the reasons that we included a criterion that it already be on state urban district lands, right, is because it's a little less controversial than just saying somebody can get an exemption to build on, designated ag lands, for example, right? And so a lot of what we're hearing is that we need more affordable housing. We need more affordable housing. One of the questions that we posed in our testimony was, whether there's actually been a study about a lack of urban lands that can be used for affordable housing. And maybe on Oahu, that's true. I don't know if that's the same on neighbor islands where there just isn't enough urban housing, but there's also an issue where there's a lot of land in ag that really isn't appropriate for ag. So one of the suggestions was that the state, go and do its update on, do a boundary review. And I'm sorry, because I know that's OPSD's Kuleana. So ERP, Tom, and I know Mary Alice isn't here, so it's a little point to that. But, we're seeing this in a lot of contexts that there's just a lot of land that's not designated properly. So, but if you're going to label something ag land, it has a certain connotation and you're going to get opposition just because it's labeled ag land. But if it's not labeled ag, or if it's not appropriate for ag, then maybe it just shouldn't be an ag. So that was kind of the context of our, posing those questions to the state. I don't know if anybody really paid attention to our testimony or not, but that's what we submitted. Go ahead, Mary.
Well, I think it's really important that you made those points, Onauna. Those are points that have been being made by the building and real estate community for many years, particularly from the Hawaii Island and especially the East Hawaii Island. They literally took a broom and swept all of the land into ag, in 1959 when we became a state. And we've been struggling to get some of this land classified as being urban. It would make a huge difference, and it's really challenging. And I'll just say that I shared this with Robin earlier. The housing issue, it's not an affordable housing; it's a housing issue. Even if people have $1 million, they can't find a house. So we don't, and I know people don't feel sorry for people that have $1 million, but maybe we should, because $1 million doesn't go as far as you think it might. And if we're going to solve the affordable housing issue, we need to solve the housing issue. And that goes back, it's the old thing of, if you fail to plan, then you've planned to fail. And that's really where we are. And I mean no disparity to OPSD, because I know they try like heck to plan. But our state is truly at a crisis crossroad. So thank you for making those comments in your testimony.
Well, and I think the article that I asked Tom to circulate today from the Advertiser, I mean, we see this every year, and now it's getting more and more challenging that oftentimes people look to the environmental impact statements as a barrier. And it's going to continue. So let me suggest then that we do what Onauna suggested and take a look at that bill. Please give it your careful eyes. And then read through the testimony. There's some, in addition to Onauna's, there's some really interesting and well-written testimony. The second bill is 2406, and there I wonder, it's not specifically about environmental impact statements. It's certainly about the environment. I don't know if any of you have had a chance to look at that, or what your thinking is about the green fee. We did talk about it a little bit last year, but I thought that was the other one that was moving, whereas almost everything else that we focused on was not. And we don't have to comment. I mean, I just raised it as one that I thought you might have some opinions on.
Tessie here. I'd like to ask Robin if what is new, different on that bill?
Oh, sure.
The green fee one.
Yeah, let me pull it up. First of all, it lowers the dollar amount. It was originally $50. This time they dropped it to 25. Secondly, they decided to make it as part of the, what do you call it, Mary? TAT? Transit.
TAT.
Yeah, TAT.
TAT.
So that they specifically said where it was coming. Third, they said where it was going to go, which is another state special fund. And then fourth, they listed the specific areas that it was to address. And they were right here. Wildfire. Well, I don't want to read this all to you. It's page 8 of the bill. You can certainly read it. But that was the other additional thing that was new, very specific targets for what it was for. You know, last year there was some focus on, one of the bills was about setting up passes to state parks. That doesn't seem to be part of this one. So it's very,
okay.
sorry?
Oh.
I didn't write it. I didn't write this bill. Don't be mad at me. I'm not the messenger. I'm just the messenger here. Anyway.
Robin, while you're taking a break there for a minute, First Cross is the 7th, Thursday the 7th. And then, so for non-money bills, and then decking for money bills is Monday the 11th, and then crossover for money bills is next Wednesday the 13th.
Okay.
So.
Good. So we have some time. I would encourage you to look at both of these bills. And, you know, like Onana always says, you're welcome to comment as an individual, of course, on any of these bills. And if you think the council, we guys should have a position on some of these, or at least comments, let us know.
Oh, no, Ron just testified that texted that he's stuck in another meeting.
It's okay. I think we talked a little bit, and we'll invite him to future meetings as well, now that we have our homework and to-do list of our transition stuff. Robin, I mean, in your opinion, and yeah, I'll take a look at HB 2406 in more detail. But is this something that you do recommend that the council provide testimony on? I mean, is it looking like it's going to pass?
It's moving. It's the only one that I could see of the green fee bills that appears to be moving. Mary, you have a better ear, way better ear than me to this. Has anyone talked with you about this? Or is it risen to the level of beyond gossip?
There's just the corporate support for the green fee is coming from the hotel industry. And that's a lopsided support system. It's not coming from business across the board.
Yeah, and I don't know what the environmental community, quote, environmental community position is taken on this. I mean, you know, when you look at the things that the money is for, it'd be hard to argue against them. But do we need another special fund? I mean, there's lots of questions to think about this. I mean, Rachel, I look at you in particular to take a look at these 12 things they're going to be using the money for. Many of them specifically about, you know, environmental climate change particularly, but you know, number 10, perpetuation of indigenous Hawaiian land, water, ocean, and cultural sites stewardship practices. It's what's the argument against that? So I think I would love all of you to take a really good look at that bill. See what you think.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I guess based on, and I will take a look, but based on what you've seen, I mean, would our testimony just be, yes, we generally support the green fee, something simple like that, or are there substantive provisions that you think we need to comment on, or, you know, say,
I think at this point, I think just some general comments would be good.
Okay.
You know, we support the idea of having you know, climate change addressed with a dedicated source of funding. We support the intent of the 12 targeted reasons for you know, how the money would be spent. Monies from the fund shall be expended only for the following purposes, and then it lists, I think, 12 specific things: shoreline restoration.
Sure.
So anyway, take a look.
Okay.
And see. I think we have time.
Okay. How does everybody feel about kind of general support in that manner? And of course, if there are in your individual kind of deeper view, if there are provisions that concern you, we can include comments on those as well.
Allison, is it okay for individuals to email me one at a time directly with their thoughts about this if I was going to be drafting some comments to just kind of think about it as a whole?
Yeah, I think that should be fine.
Okay, well then I make that offer to you. If you have individual thoughts about it, send it to me. I'll
Mhm.
try and draft something collectively, if you will, and
Mhm.
I'll share it with Onana, and then we can, move forward.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'd love your Mary and all of you, but Mary and Rachel for sure. I'd love your thinking about this, Bill. And those two dogs, you too, with the two dogs. You want your opinions as well, and theirs too.
Thanks, Robin.
Yeah.
Anybody else, other legislation that might impact the council? Robin, thank you for, of course, all these years tracking this legislation, and Mary, you too. You just know the legislative process so well, and filtering through all of it, and finding what really might impact the council or what the council might have an opinion on. It's a lot of work.
Sorry, my cat was throwing up on the floor, so I that's why I was not here.
Okay. Well, if there aren't any other questions or comments on legislation, I think, yeah, that's a good idea. We'll continue to monitor HB 2046 and let's get the numbers.
2358.
Yeah, HB 2358. And yep, legislative committee will provide another update at the April meeting. Okay, anything else? Any other announcements? I'm going to continue to work with boards and commissions. I'll email our testimony that we submitted on 2358, just so you folks have that. Yeah, any other announcements, housekeeping items? Next meeting, we're looking at Tuesday, April 2nd. Hopefully we'll have a quorum. Yeah. Yeah. All right, well, thank you so much, everybody, again, for your time, and ERP and Allison for helping us. We'll be in touch, and okay, wait. So agenda deadline. So April 2nd is our meeting. So March 22nd, Friday, March 22nd, agenda deadlines. Is that right, Tom? Yeah, because we got to post on the 27th. Yeah, March 22nd. Okay. 22nd agenda deadline. Okay. All right, it's 2:08 p.m. I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great afternoon.